Hello, everyone. This is Matt Greaney here with the final project on my student Stefan Stevens. Some of the identifying information. Stefan Stevens was born on July 20th, 2013. He is 13 years, 3 months old. Um, at the time of this eval, he's in 8th grade. Um, the eval date was on October 10th, 2016. Myself, the special ed teacher, um, had this eval made at the Standard Middle School, just a middle school that we have here in the state of Maine. Um, the referral that came in was that Stefan had been missing school at the rate of 1 day per week since the beginning of the school, and he has fallen behind in academic classes. He struggles with the daily warm-up questions, which are intended to be just a quick warm-up to get the students' brains working in the math class. Math teacher gave a probe beginning of the year for grouping purposes and reported that Stefan couldn't multiply multiple digit numbers, add, subtract, multiply, or divide fractions, and the students struggled to add numbers with decimals past the tenths placeholder. So he's proficient in RLA and is meeting standards in every class except math, which historically has been a major challenge for him. Something of note is that he did come from a day treatment program where he was placed for unsafe behaviors in the regular ed classroom when he was in the 2nd grade. He had some history of assault on his peers and also the teacher and principal. Following eval was completed by the IEP team per request by the math teacher, specifically to address the following questions. My assessment questions are: what are Stefan's current levels of performance, what we call a PLOP or a PLOP, present level of performance? What are Stefan's current academic strengths and weaknesses? Give me a good idea of where he is working, what he needs to work on, etc. What strategies could the math teacher and support staff promote to achieve proficiency in mathematics? So we'll glean some information from where he's working, at what level he's working right now, and get an idea of what strategies we're going to use to attack his challenges. And what type of support does he need to address his math deficiencies? Do we need to have him in for pull-out services in the resource room, push-in services where we support in the class? Does he need a tutor, etc.? Those are the 4 questions I wanted to answer through this eval. Background info. Stefan was getting tutoring help twice a week in the mornings during RTI time. Tutor set up a time each meeting to practice math fact fluency, including flashcards, sped case manager at the middle school. This is one of those things where his math fluency is behind, and that in return has affected his ability to do more, multi-step questions. He kind of gets bogged down by his math facts that he can't go through with the whole problem. When you have multiple step problems, that's a tendency for kids who don't have math fluency down. The average student scored a 29 correctly in 1 minute, where he had scored a 4. This was on his multiplication fluency. It's like a mad minute, basically. 1 by 1, he scored 4 correct in that 1 minute time period. So math fluency is definitely going to be a focus for getting him back on track. Stefan was in a self-contained program. Some more background information. He was given SDI, specially designed instruction support. Like I said, he had a violent history. He remained in the self-contained classroom until the 5th grade, and they transitioned back in the regular ed program with check-in support from an ed tech during math and RLA. So it's a big jump, but we're going to have to kind of reassess what sort of supports he needs now. Assessment methods: be given the Brigant-Sibbs test, focusing on math results, giving weight to his scores and reading fluency, just to check. He was given a Woodcock-Johnson 3, which I didn't administer, but I have the data from. Test oral language, reading, written language, math, and general knowledge to see if there are any areas of concern. The WWJ3 will give norm reference insights as opposed to the Brigance, which is. So we also have a classroom observation to see how the student's engagement might be affecting success in regular ed setting and to observe how he behaves compared to his peers. So we're looking for adverse effect there. Test session observations. So during the test session on the Brigance, which I gave specifically as a criterion reference test assessment, he appeared to be pretty nervous during the test, and I assured him that there wasn't a time limit on the test, as he can have as much time as he needs. Stefan was distracted by a fly in the room and asked to sharpen his pencil multiple times, despite the pencil being fully sharp. So he was definitely nervous. That will certainly be considered to have an effect on his scores there. It took him 25 minutes altogether. I was taken in the resource room, and then it was submitted to the IEP team. Test results, Brigance criterion reference test gauges where students performing at which grade level. Most specifically, tested Stephanacy where he was performing at in maths. There is an RLA portion of that test too. He scored 9 correct, which is his raw score, which would land him in the 3rd grade, working level 3.5. Given the Brigance grade level reading fluency assessment, the student read 117 words with 2 correct errors, which means he got 115 correct words per minute. This student's score was 115, which is a percentile score of 10. So he's in the 10th percentile, meaning that 10% of students, he scored the same or better than 10% of students within the normative sample. So there are definitely some deficits there. On the WJ3, we found his tests of achievement. He found that he had his broad reading to be in the low average, broad written language at 79, broad math, which I really want to focus on, which was in the low range. He had a 76 on his broad math. That just kind of gives a broad sample of where he is working. We get more specific on his mathematical calculation skills, 70, which is in the low range as well. And we glean that from his pre-test stuff at the beginning of the year. We knew that his math facts were low. His total academic achievement score was 79, so low to low average range. So the conclusions after giving a norm reference and a criterion reference was he's operating at mid-3rd grade level in math, where we can expect him to complete it up to the 3rd grade Common Core standards. His Brigance score suggests that he's able to identify and order numbers up to 100, add and subtract numbers with and without grouping, can multiply and divide 1 digit by 1 digit problems. So this isn't as fluid as we would like. He seems to be very rigid. I think he has his 4, 5s, and 6 down, but past that he can't multiply. 7, 8s, 9s. He struggles with 2s as well. And this is all information I gleaned from the Brigance. His strengths and weaknesses. Stefan, although not fluent, made very few mistakes in reading the Brigance passage. So he is able to multiply and subtract smaller numbers and multiply and divide them as well. But he struggles when we start doing more multiple step kind of problems. Strategies, I'm just answering the questions I posed at the beginning. What strategies could the math teacher and support staff use to promote proficiencies in mathematics? Stefan would benefit from tactile, hands-on, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing exercises. We can manipulate objects. I've used base 10 cubes with him, and he seemed to grasp that better than just the remote memorization. To better understand ungrouping, regrouping, and borrowing when adding, subtracting, and multiplying multi-digit numbers. So we're going to use those manipulatives to kind of show him when we're subtracting 11 minus 7, we need to ungroup the 11 to be able to subtract 7 from it. So you can see that when we move the manipulatives where it's a little too abstract for him to borrow a 10 to subtract the 7 from it. For example, we benefit from a weekly math minute regimen, and this is kind of my call. on trying to get him to get his math fact fluency up. His multiplicative reasoning is just automaticity is not there. And I think if we it's kind of old school, but having some flashcards there to do, he will be able to um, get his fact fluency up. Stefan should meet with a tutor to review, and this is something that we have at this school that's kind of special, that we have extra time for tutors to come in to work with the students. So we're going to have him work during RTI time to practice math fluency and MobiMax and IXO, which caters to whatever needs the student has. In his case, it's really basic, about third grade level working level. So, types of support does he need? Um, because he is behind his peers 5 years, so he would benefit from specially designed instruction to be carried out in the resource room when math takes place. Just during his observation, just seeing him in class on the fly, he is definitely not benefiting from being in that class. Everything's over his head. He tends to get himself into trouble as he's not really engaged in the class or understanding what's going on. So we're going to pull him out of the class, catch him up on grade level standards. We'll focus on working on base 10 understanding of addition, subtraction, then move on to multiplying 2 by 2 digit with regrouping. We're going to have that learning reinforced with RTI tutoring, where the focus will be on fact fluency to address deficiencies in automaticity. So I think we have a case for Stefan to acquire special ed services. He had only push-in services before, but I'm going to suggest, looking at his present levels, that he has more in-depth, specially designed instruction as we move forward. So that is my project. Thank you. It's been a great semester. Take care.